you had a series called What Prison Taught Me, and you started The Birth of American Felon TV, which is ongoing series on the page right now.
Uh-huh.
It tells your story in chronological order. But when you came up with the entire American Felon TV multiverse that you got going on, what did you imagine for yourself in this platform while you were in prison?
I mean, I was just, to be honest, I was just trying to, start something to figure out a way to help felons find jobs and start their own business. This is the main thing we need coming out of jail, other than housing. After a long period of prison time, a lot of people can't find jobs, and leads them back to a life of crime. And if people are homeless too, so that's one thing. I just wanted American Felon to just try to be that a business that can help, can generate me money by also helping people at the same time. And I wasn't really thinking of using Instagram in this sort of way. It just came. I'm just seeing the reactions I'm getting from certain posts, and seeing how the people react and engage in it. And I felt it was time. Like, yeah, we're gonna start doing the shows, different shows. Like, I can't just tell my story and that be it. I gotta have something else, because once that ends, what else is gonna go?
Yeah.
I had a couple people hit me up asking me the same thing, and had to really think it through, because I never had this type of idea in prison. It was just probably going to be the merch, sell the merch, probably start a book company, publish a couple books that the bros wrote. But all of this is just took place now. It's just I'm just going with the flow, seeing the reaction.
Welcome to the Words Matter Pod with Akil Pinnock, a podcast dedicated to wordsmiths and storytellers. I'm your host, Akil Pinnock. Today's guest is the founder and creator of American Felon TV. American
Yes,
Felon
sir.
TV is a social media and YouTube platform that documents crimes and landmark events in his life and community, and highlights and interviews felons who have turned their life around. Since his May 2024 release from prison after serving 12 of a 14-year sentence, he's become an advocate for the war on recidivism, an entrepreneur selling his branded American Felon merch, as well as gaining willful employment. And last but not least,
Yes, sir.
he shared a hometown of Spring Valley, New York.
You
Word,
know the vibes. Rockley, stand the fuck up, man.
yeah, word. Words Matter Pod would like to give a warm welcome to James Pitt.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Yeah, no problem, bro. Yeah, man. Thank you for being so quick with the response when I reached out to you a few weeks ago. Um, your page was brought to my attention by one of my mans back home, and looking at, there's a lot of like hood gossip platforms. I'm looking into your platform, and I'm seeing like your bio, and it's talking about the war on recidivism. And I went from like your first post all the way up to your most recent post. And
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at the post you were doing, like that series you were doing about like what prison taught you. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is really informative, and I've never seen anybody from the town do anything like this, right? So this is a niche that could be filled, and I think more people, wherever they're from, who've been through the system, who've been through the struggle, similar struggle that you've been through, could benefit from seeing this kind of content, and the community could benefit from seeing this kind of content, and it humanizes you and your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I took that kind of approach, to just be straightforward, keep it all the way 100 as much as I could, as much as my memory allows me to, just keep it real all the way, because the youth are being lied to every day. We glamorize the streets like it's something to be a part of, like it's fascinating, but we don't ever really speak about the real consequences that can really happen. And I'm a living example. I was able to make it out, but there was a moment where that was looking slim, like it was never going to happen,
Yeah,
So I'm just trying to use what I gained over the years to give back, and, because it takes a village. Or
And it looks like you building a village too, because you got like multiple people helping you out with the platform, right?
yeah, I got my twin sister Yasmin and one of my best friends, Jacko Hyena Malone on Instagram, and a few others actually, contributing to the movement. It's homegrown, so we Rockland, we want us to win, but it's not gonna happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day, and we're not gonna expect this to just take off overnight and be a success. No, we're gonna put in that work, and we're gonna get the message across.
Yeah, exactly. So, how are you?
You say that again?
How are you? It was,
I, I mean, I can't complain. I'm just still adjusting, and it hasn't even been a year since I've been home. Next month actually makes the year, May 20th. But so it's been a wonderful experience though. So I can't complain. Freedom is a blessing.
yeah, definitely some we take for granted because, I mean, the average person doesn't really think that the freedom would get taken away from them.
Yeah, no doubt. The simple things, chewing gum, just going to bed when I feel like it, it's just like, dang, like all of this stuff I was just allowing other people to control for so long.
Yeah.
It's time. Mm-mm. Mm.
So, who are you?
I mean, I'm a lot of things to a lot of people. To some I'm just a hoodlum, a gang banging hoodlum, criminal, yada yada yada. And to others, I'm a loving man. I'm a caring. I'm a protector. I'm ambitious. You see what the American felon like. I got drive. I don't just sit around. I try to get things accomplished. And I'm a father. I'm trying to give back, and that's the main reason why I do what I do is because during my incarceration, it sucks seeing fathers and sons sleeping a couple beds from each other. It's like
Yeah.
I would never want that. So
Yeah.
I did everything I've done, everything I continue to do and will do. I did it so my children won't have to.
Mhm. Exactly. So, I just want to speak to you and speak to the public, just early out the gate, because I just want to make some things clear. So, I want to give a little disclaimer to the public before we get into this interview because I've never done an interview of this nature. Some of the viewers and listeners will know who you are. Some won't, but they will by the time we finish. By the time we finish the interview, I'm not doing this interview to glorify crime and criminality for the sake of sensationalism to garner views, clicks, and engagement. The reason why I'm saying all of this is because there are plenty of YouTube platforms that do all the things I just listed, and y'all know who I'm talking about. Without saying any names, usually these platforms are hosted by white men, with the exception of one of the biggest personalities in the space being a black man who gained and continues to gain notoriety for covering negativity in the hip hop world, who look at black culture from a monolithic perspective that's pretty much always street, always poor, always violent, and the nature of their content seems very voyeuristic in regard to the worst aspects of the black plight in this country. So
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to get that out the way for anyone who may have some assumptions of what this interview will consist of by watching IG and TikTok clips and shorts. So, uh, you know, just to be back to the interview now. So, what kind of things were you into growing up?
Um, different stages of my life, I was into a bunch of things. Like early on, like I grew up with my father. My mother wasn't around. She was heavily addicted on crack. So it was just me, my father, and two siblings. But as a kid, I used to go camping a lot. My father took us camping, fishing all the time. We was in the Boy Scout, Cub Scouts, and everything. So I was familiar with the outdoors. I grew to love the outdoors, the wildlife, everything about nature. And as I got older, the streets called and I answered. And, that's when the gang banging started. Because like I said, we're originally from Brooklyn. We were born in Brooklyn. We moved up here when we were like 7 or about 7 or 8, one of those. And we never had like a neighborhood to actually, you know, call home. Like
Yeah.
no projects or anything. It was just us, and we were poor. Like my father wasn't working; he was sick. Um, had several kidney transplants, was on dialysis majority of my life. So, we go to school. It just, was rough. Just, so we just started fighting back, and that led to the streets, gangs, and all of that. So, once I hit the streets, it was just that was just it. It was over.
Yeah.
It was over.
It seemed like you had a great dad though, just as far as him doing the best he could do with what he had.
Yeah, he was amazing. I would never want or wish for a better father. He passed away actually in 23, a year before I came home off my sentence. I was able to go to the funeral, but it just sucked.
Yeah.
It sucked.
Yeah. Nah. Sorry for your loss, man.
Thank you.
Definitely know it's like losing a parent. Um. So you told your story on YouTube, on your channel. You know some of the things you just spoke about. And on Blood on the Razor Wire TV, I watched that interview. You spoke about growing up in poverty because of your dad's illness and him being the only parent. So, life was tough, and you experienced bullying. It's one thing to grow up in a community where almost everyone is poor, right?
Yeah.
When you grow up in Spring Valley, right, it's an economically diverse community. You
Yeah.
school with kids who are middle class, upper middle class, kids who get everything that they want.
Yeah.
Um, what does growing up in the suburbs while being poor, something that you don't really associate with the suburbs, surrounded by people that aren't poor due to like your psyche growing up?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. You just get that mentality, like if I'm locked out, I want it. I'm gonna just take it from you, and that's the mentality that gets developed, with dudes like us, growing up, not having it, and then now we're able to actually, you know, go out and get it ourselves. It's like, all right, I see. Yeah, got some rich people over here. I'm coming to get you. Fuck it. You're not sharing. You're not letting us at the table. That's the mindset we get, and that's the type of mindset I had. I was really more so a jack boy majority of my street career, just
Yeah,
sticking people up, robbing houses, doing all type of stuff. Like that was just who we were.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a it's kind of like a metaphor on just America, right? Like how close you could be to wealth and how close you could be to poverty.
Man,
You grow up in Spring Valley, you know, you might grow up in a house and your family's doing well, but then your next door neighbors are struggling.
man,
Yeah, so it's an interesting dichotomy in that way. Uh, you spent the first few years of your life in Brooklyn, and then you moved to Valley. And originally, a lot of times, because I was born in the Bronx, family moved to Spring Valley when I was real little.
hmm
You grew up in Brooklyn, moved to Valley when you were little, and usually our parents move us here to have a better life.
yeah,
Um, and I'm sure your dad probably to wanted to move the family from Brooklyn so that you can avoid the things that you eventually ended up getting into.
yeah, absolutely.
You ever think about that? Like, yo, my pops moved us here for a better life, and then look what I'm doing.
Yeah, not when I'm living that life, you never really think about it, but in hindsight, you see everything. You get to see everything. Like, damn, all the sacrifices that he actually did make. It's
Yeah,
like, damn, I wish I could have did better. But I always can do better. So it's
yeah,
just, that's the thought I always keep. Like, I can do better now. You
yeah,
feel me? So,
yeah.
or
It's not too late, and you're still pretty young too, right? I think you only like I think you based on the ages you talk about when you tell these stories. I think you're only like 3 years older than me.
I'll be 35 in November.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm 32.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, you seen that '07, you said you was 14, so I'm like, okay, yeah. Makes sense. It's crazy how small this world is.
Yeah, and we get into that. But Yeah, I remember that day vividly. Oh man. Um, what kind of thoughts were you having during these times, right? When you're going through all of these things?
I'm being honest. I don't know. I don't know. Like I grew up fighting. You got a Type C charger in here? I don't know what that is. I don't even know what it is. I got an iPhone charger, but yeah, yeah. I don't. My entire family, like we grew up fighting. My uncle Tony, he's one of the top martial arts artists in the country. Created his own style. I believe it's called Krav Maga or something like that. Krav Maga.
Yeah,
But he probably got Anthony Pottinger, Anthony Morrison. You could probably find him. You could Google him. He's top. So we grew up fighting, So we were no strangers when we came up here. We're always fighting in school. You know, so by the time I got to that age of all these battles, is now my pride is in the way. It's just like, I'm not taking that. I'm not taking this. I'm not turning the other cheek. I did that enough times. So fighting back, I just started seeing like, all right, we're gonna get the respect. Once you start putting that pain in, you start getting the respect, and that's the mode I carried. All right, every battle we was going into, all right, we're gonna put this pain in. That's it. You're gonna respect this. You're gonna respect these vibes over here. This is what it is.
yeah,
And it's terrible when you look at it. How the mindset, like, damn, like, how did we even develop that? Like, it's crazy that product of our environments for real, but um, it's different or it's
yeah.
different. Mm-hmm.
I mean, but through all these tough times, how many siblings you have?
I have two, like, I have three siblings. One is just my mother's oldest child, and I have my twin sister Yasmin and my brother Malcolm.
Okay.
KB, they call him KB.
So all these times, right? It can't be all bad, right? Like what was giving what gave y'all joy growing up?
Like I said, Pops used to always take us out. Like he would make sure we didn't have enough money, to really get good gifts, but he would make sure that like we had good experiences. Like he would find out all the good organizations like Camp Venture and stuff like that we could sign up for that would let us take trips to different places, different amusement parks, and he was always hands on himself. Like I said, he took us fishing multiple times growing up to Seven Lakes everywhere. Took us hiking, bear mountain, camping, everything. So we like that was the joy we had. It was always the outdoors. That's where we just love. We just love all three of us, all four of us. Just uh,
You ever got back into that like when you came home?
no, I was, wanted to go fishing, but what you plan when you locked up, it's totally different when you actually touch the streets. It's just like, damn, like, I wasn't even prepared. It doesn't matter how much you think you prepared, nothing can prepare you for
Yeah.
that transition.
Yeah, man, because it's different world, and then it's like isolation. Even though you're in prison with a bunch of people, it's like you're still
Yeah.
isolated from like the average life, the typical life. So I could understand. I can't even. Well, I can't even understand, but it's like I could empathize because
Yeah, empathize, all right? You don't want to understand. Nobody does.
yeah,
Jail is for the birds.
yeah, man. You spoke in depth about turning blood in your youth and everything that came with that. We all know the negativity that comes with a life of crime
Mm-hmm.
and being a gang member. But were there any positive aspects of gang culture that drew you to the lifestyle?
Yeah, just the brotherly love, the brotherhood of it all. It doesn't matter if you're in a gang, if you're in a recognized gang, I should say like Bloods or Crips or whatever organization, because everybody. If you're in the street life, you got your crew. You feel me? That's considered a gang. You feel
Mhm.
me? It's the same thing. You feel me? It's the brotherhood of it all. We build that camaraderie with each other. We get battle tested. Loyalty. You develop love for the individuals, and there's good times when dudes actually take care of each other. You know, if you got the right person leading the situation, you
Yeah,
know, even though it's a lifestyle of crime, you know, you can find comfort in it though, you know. So and you grow to love it. I'm not gonna lie, you grow to love it. You can see what it can be. You
yeah,
could
yeah, yeah.
you love it for what you can see it can be. You know, for what it can become. Because
Mhm.
we could be so much more than just a gang that they label us as. You know. Uh,
Yeah. And you know that is it could be conflicting at two at times because even when you might try to make a change,
mm-hmm.
so much damage has been done in the street that is it might be too late in the eyes of the law to change your reputation, right? And then
Yeah.
you end up seeing like rappers getting hit with RICO charges, right? Because yeah, they come from the hood, they might be gang affiliated, and now it's like, you know, the feds build a case.
Yeah.
So they're building the case from things that they used to do. And then
Mm-hmm.
now as a rapper, they're no longer involved with crime. Like people that are associated with them that's back in the streets is still involved with crime.
Yeah.
And then they all get wrapped up into this conspiracy that really doesn't even exist.
Yeah, the Feds play by a different ball game. I never, you know, I was fortunate to never have to deal with the Feds, you know, so I only did state time, juvenile time, state time, county time. You know, the feds play by different rules. They can go by hearsay. You know, you could just say I did it, and that's that they're gonna run with it. You know, which is unfair. You know, but that's the way they play. And you know, this is why even when I tell the stories online, there's concerns. I got people hitting my inbox like, "Yo, don't speak on certain things." Like, you know, you trying to get people indicted. Like, these are all stuff that took place 20 years ago. You know, majority of the crimes that did happen, I got locked up for and charged. You feel me? And most of the time I'm talking about little fist fights,
Exactly.
so it is like, but that is a major concern about, stories, because if it can happen to rappers, there's no reason why you can't think it could happen in the lane I'm in. It's pretty much the same thing, just, where
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that 98% conviction rating is not, it's real.
yeah, you're gonna cop out. Nobody's trying to do that fat time. That's critical.
Yeah. Um, so, you know, you've been home for almost a year and like you said, you know, you're ambitious, you're motivated, you pretty quickly started to try to become a productive member of society. I would say, you know, you got jobs, growing social media presence, you selling merch, you wearing your merch right now, American Felon.
Absolutely, come cop it.
Yeah. You doing press right now, you talking to me. It looks like you handling this well, but I know it could be a lot of stimulation. And it could be pretty overwhelming for people who are recently released from prison. How are you handling this newfound freedom and attention?
Um, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not really. I'm more antisocial. You feel me? If you people really know me, they know I'm not really like with all the cameras and stuff. So I really had to get used to having that. Doing it. This is why it took me so long to really build up to get to the story with the series, The Birth of the American Felon, because I'm not, really not used to being in front of the camera like that. But you know, um, even now, like I'm walking on the street and people be like, "Oh, I see you on." I try not to let it get me gassed up. Like, oh, I love your videos and all of that. It's wonderful, it's wonderful, man. It's just a day by day process. Just trying to learn, try to learn the system. Try to just I know it's gonna be a challenge trying to change people's perception of who I am. You feel me? Everybody sees me as Blitz. You feel me? The demon Blitz. But I'm trying to just show them who James is. Bi. I'm handling my business, and we're gonna do stuff productively. I'm trying to, just take my time with it. There's no rush. I'm not trying to impress nobody. You feel me? So I'm just, day by day. That's all I can tell people. Even coming home, like, just don't rush. Don't try to impress. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Take your time and pace yourself, and find your lane. Or
Yeah. I think though, because what year did you go to prison?
I got locked up in 2012.
Okay. I mean, it was you did a long bid, but at the same time, Instagram did exist in 2012, and phones were pretty advanced by that time. So it's not like you completely unfamiliar with.
What, my nigga? I ain't know how to use this phone worth
Oh,
a
for real?
damn. I
Nah,
was getting frustrated like hell. Like, yo, what the hell? Yo, I'm pressing. I'm like, yo, I got my son. Yo, how I do this? How I do this? Like, yo, this shit. It was overwhelming. That's one thing. The
yeah.
technology, you got to take your time with it. Like, even playing the games. I haven't played the game system since because I couldn't. You know, I jumped on Call of Duty, Spider Man. They was just, destroying me. I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. It's over. I don't got that in me no more. You know. Technology. That's one thing the prisons need to get though. They need to get dudes up to date, dudes and the females up to date with the technology, because we're in the past, like you said, iPhones and all the smartphones, they were coming out before I got locked up, but it wasn't as
Advance.
advanced and prolific as it is now. It's like it's everywhere. It's just everywhere. You can't go a day. You can't live in this life without a fucking freaking smartphone. Or I don't know how people do it. Shoot.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was trying to give you a little grace, like,
Nope, nope, nope. Bro, that it was the what? Even driving, getting even riding in the passenger seat, bro. Like
yeah,
they speeding. I'm like, yo, slow down. Like I'm not even going fast. Like, yo, slow down, slow down. I gotta get used to this. The whole time I'm up north, we're getting transported on big buses, chained up. So it's like it's a different experience. I'm holding the guard, the car handle, like, yo, tightly, like, nah. You got to just take your time, man. You got to take your time with this, man. Or
yeah,
there's really nothing that can prepare you. It doesn't matter. I thought I was prepared, trying to keep up to date with the information. There's nothing, nothing. Or mm,
well, I mean, with that being said, you are pretty consistent with your posting. So it seems like, and even with the editing of the clips, I know you get help, but hey, I mean, you adjusting, right? So
yeah, yeah, just day by day, just trial and error, just keep going, just keep finding it, and eventually, I found my rhythm, and it seems to be working. So, that's all I can tell people that's trying to do that too. Just find your lane. Just take your time and find your lane. Word.
yeah. You talk about, I mentioned this earlier. You had a series called What Prison Taught Me, and you started The Birth of American Felon TV, which is ongoing series on the page right now.
Uh-huh.
It tells your story in chronological order. But when you came up with the entire American Felon TV multiverse that you got going on, what did you imagine for yourself in this platform while you were in prison?
I mean, to be honest, I was just trying to, start something to figure out a way to help felons find jobs and start their own business. This is the main thing we need coming out of jail, other than housing. After a long period of prison time, a lot of people can't find jobs, and leads them back to a life of crime. And if people are homeless too, so that's one thing. I just wanted American Felon to just try to be that a business that can help, could generate me money by also helping people at the same time. And I wasn't really thinking of using Instagram in this sort of way. It just came. I'm just seeing the reactions I'm getting from certain posts, and seeing how the people react and engage in it, and I felt it was time. Like, yeah, we're gonna start doing the shows, different shows. Like, I can't just tell my story and that be it. I gotta have something else, because once that ends, what else is gonna go?
Yeah,
And I had a couple people hit me up asking me the same thing, and had to really think it through, because I never had this type of idea in prison. It was just probably going to be the merch, sell the merch, probably start a book company, published a couple books that the bros wrote, but all of this is just took place now. It's just I'm just going with the flow, seeing the reaction.
yeah. But I think it's a good start though to you know, the merch to come after establishing yourself as a personality in this
Mm-hmm.
space, right? Because then people could buy into the story, into the lifestyle, or feel like they can with the products that you're selling. So I think it's like your order of operations is pretty on point.
Yeah, I had a good marketing teacher when I was locked up. I took a little business course, got my entrepreneur and stuff. So I was I had a good marketing teacher, taught me a couple things that I put into effect.
Yeah,
A couple of other teachers, my business management teacher. So I just try to use that and just implement it. Take
yeah,
everything I learned while in there and just really get focused out here with it.
yeah. Just looking at all your content, it made me think about what kind of maybe just wonder like what kind of student you were, right? Outside of all the the trauma going on in your life, right? I just wanted to know like what kind of student were you, right? Because it seems like now you have some skills that really would have helped a child.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up. My pops used to fix. That's when my pops wasn't working. He used to fix computers and do all of that stuff. So I learned a little bit about how to operate with the computers, just watching him and growing up around that. So I knew how to use all the Windows applications, and all of that. But as far as like, I was never dumb in school. Like even when they put me in special ed, they had to put me in advanced classes because my scores was too high. You feel
Yeah.
me? But it's just when I'm going to school. If I'm not suspended, I was pretty much constantly suspended. Or
Yeah. And I mean, special ed has been weaponized for like black youth, specifically black men a lot. A lot of they put you in special education and then you like kind of instantly become a pariah. But there's a lot of people who became brilliant people who were
yeah, I wasn't. I seen a special ed never bothered me being in it. It is what it is. I knew what I was really in there for. I was too well, they said I was too violent, behavior issues, but that's what everybody says. But I was really I would get suspended, every other week. It was just always something. I'm fighting, I'm fighting, I'm fighting. I'm constantly
yeah.
doing something. Word.
School to prison pipeline is a real thing, man.
It's a real thing. Yes, it definitely is.
Mhm.
Definitely a real thing. Mm-hmm.
So for you to still be getting adjusted and just trying to reacclimate yourself into society, I think you do a good job as a storyteller. And you do a good job with like your use of cliffhangers stories. Yeah, because I be watching the clips, and I'm like, damn, how he just ended like that. But then the next clip continues the story. So I could tell you're getting more comfortable speaking with every clip. Are you conscious of that?
Yeah, it takes me like a couple takes to, really get it through, and just like, I get it the way I feel like is good enough to post, but yeah, I'm definitely getting more comfortable with the posting and, getting familiar with the, just how to edit and do all of this stuff, my facial expressions, I'm definitely aware. I'm getting aware more the lighting and everything,
Yeah.
everything you got to be aware of when you're actually doing content creating.
Yeah. What did you study while doing all of this?
Say that again.
What did you study
As far as what? What do you mean?
as far as in preparation for putting this content out?
Oh no, mainly watching other people's videos, like mainly because like you said earlier, I did the blood on the razor wire, so I would see how he was doing his conducting his interviews. I was watching his shorts, and a few other people I came across online, like, okay. And one of the homegirls, one of my sis, I call her the sis, Kalitha Bush. She has a series out. It's popular on TikTok. Married to a FBI informant or something like that. And I was watching her videos, and she's mainly watching her videos was made me like, all right, I got to get comfortable telling my story. She's really doing a great job. So, shout out to Kalitha Bush. But yeah, so I got comfortable, watching her, just seeing how she delivered it, and that's when I just started like, all right, it's time now. It's time. Let's go.
Yeah. I spoke a little earlier about um just the concept of living in the suburbs and still experiencing crime, still experiencing poverty. And you're letting people know about these elements of the suburbs that many don't think exist. Being a person who was locked up upstate with people from all over New York, did you intend on highlighting these elements to the uninformed and misinformed?
Absolutely. I could show tickets, misbehavior reports of all fightings. I'm putting Spring Valley on the map. You're not going to talk shit about nothing going on in Rockland. I'm Rockland. You feel me? That's what it is. Because you go up north and you're around a bunch of city dudes. If they're not from the boroughs, they're from the major other cities, Albany, Connect,
Yeah,
Buffalo, Rochester, where you from? Spring Valley? Where the hell is that? I'm like, nah, we,
they
we
do that.
not gonna keep
They do that
doing
in the street.
that. We wasn't gonna keep doing that. So, I was definitely, showing out and hey, Spring Valley. Now, anybody come through mentioning my name, like, oh, they from Spring Valley, oh, such and such, such and such, I was making sure you know who Spring Valley is now. You're not gonna keep asking what that is. Word.
Yeah,
Word.
no, I get it. Listen, being from Valley and then I live out here in LA, I always lead with, and I lived in the city, right?
Mm-hmm.
I lived in Massachusetts. I mean, I grew up in Spring Valley though, 17 years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I always lead with Spring Valley first. Anytime somebody asks me where I'm from, I say I'm from Spring Valley, New York.
Spring Valley.
Now, you're gonna be confused, but I don't care.
Yeah.
you know?
Nah, the whole fact. Every time, people like, yo, you was born in Brooklyn. I'm not from Brooklyn.
Yeah,
I was born there. I'm from Spring Valley.
yeah,
Everything I became, the man I became, is because I grew up in Spring Valley. Everything about me is Rockland born, pretty much. My whole attitude, my whole personality, everything about me is Rockland. I feel comfortable when I'm here.
yeah.
You know.
hmm And I also make it a thing because there's other people that I've interviewed on this platform that's from Valley, and I do that because of that exact reason to let people know that there's great people from my community doing great things. Shout out to Nana Kwame, Ajay Brenya, New York
Yeah.
Times bestseller. Uh,
Oh,
shout out to
that's,
huh?
I said shout out.
Shout out
That's
to
what's
him.
up.
Richard from Aware Brand, who's also working in mental health space. Shout out to Ayana Depos, Grammy Award winning music engineer.
Well, that's what's up.
Yeah, so I always of course, trying to get bigger guests, but got to bring it back home and bring some attention to my.
Absolutely. There's definitely talent. There's definitely stories out here, and there's enough people out here to really, put Rockland on the map and get us recognized and, open doors in some type of way for brothers and sisters to get out the streets. Word.
Mhm. So a major thing for you is ending the war on recidivism, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Outside of telling these stories, what else can you do to stop recidivism?
Like I said, the main thing is really helping the felons come home, get jobs. That's the main thing. Everybody wants money. We need money. There's life don't stop. Bills are piling up. Like dudes are coming home, and some, I know there's a lot. I got two jobs. You feel me? I work morning, I work night. But I was fortunate to come home to a better situation than most individuals. Everybody's not fortunate like me. So those dudes that are less fortunate, they need more resources that are available, and that's why I say this is why I created the merch. So 25% of everything we sell, all our profits, our yearly profits, we're reinvesting to help felons find jobs and start their own businesses,
Hmm.
and it's going to be where every venture we open. And once we get into the publishing, trying to drop the magazine. I'm working on developing a magazine. We're trying to develop the publishing house, like I said, get dudes that wrote manuscripts, try to publish them under the American Felon brand, and whatever we sell is getting reinvested. 25% of our profits are getting reinvested. That's how we're gonna do this.
Yeah,
And hopefully that can stop the mass and generational incarceration, the cycle of mass and generational incarceration. Dudes need money and they need housing. A lot of felons are homeless, relying on other people, and if they don't got that place to live, there's too many restrictions,
yeah,
so there's a lot that really needs to take place, and just bringing more awareness. You got to just bring awareness, man. That's all you can do, and this is why I really created the name American Felon. A lot of people use different names to try to tone it down, or try to put shade on it, but Hold on, my bro. Yo, Jack, your phone. Yeah, but that's why I chose a more in your face type of name, American Felon. We're not hiding. You know, we paid our debt to society, and we're gonna change the narrative. You feel me? Like we already paid our debt. You can't try to keep regulating us to double minority status. You know, keep us
Yeah,
locked out after we already did all our time. You're just releasing us. Oh, here, $40 in a mule. You know what I'm saying? Pretty much $40 in a bus ticket. That's all they give you when you leave. Like that's ridiculous.
yeah,
Like, come on. And they expect you to really try to live a straight and narrow life. That's unbelievable. People don't think about the long term of what that can lead to until it really hits home. Until you're, an unfortunate victim of the lack of resources they have available.
mhm.
Word.
I'm I like how you put that, right? Double minority, because you really
Yeah.
are, right? You know, you're a black person in this country. We only 13% of the population,
Mm-hmm.
and you become an even smaller minority with being incarcerated, and then being incarcerated, the system's already designed for you to keep coming back so that, you know, these private prisons could keep making money off of you.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly.
So it's actually some, I actually never heard that before, double minority, but it's true.
It definitely is. Shit, you could go triple if you want to say we poor, So that shit it just keeps going. You know, they're gonna keep trying to put us in brackets. And this is why we gotta be more in your face. The more we try to hide it and put shade on it, there's nothing gonna change. Nothing changes if nothing changes. Everybody's been trying to do it their way, try to felons need help, try to do it the nonprofit way, but that does you can see the recidivism rate hasn't changed or slightly dropped. Like, no, we need more resources available. And that's why I really created American Felon as a business aspect. I think a business aspect works better than a nonprofit. Word.
Mm, yeah, yeah. I mean, like you said, man, everybody needs money, man. We all need money.
Yeah, but you got to think about all the skills that individuals actually have. We might not look at it as skills. There's dudes are drug dealers, they're robbers, they're gang members, they're organizers. I was a gang leader. Had my a crew of over 30 people under me. You're not gonna tell me that's not organization, but
Yeah.
now I can use that for some legitimate reasons. I plan robberies. I planned all of this. We planned drug sales. We did all of this. Those are skills. You just got to see them for what they are and legitimize them.
Mhm.
Or felons make the best entrepreneurs. We deal with all type of characters.
Mm. You definitely do deal with a lot of characters, right? Because everybody is susceptible to a life of crime, and everybody is susceptible to things like addiction, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
You give disclaimers on your page saying that your content isn't made to glorify gang culture and crime, but of course, there's still a possibility that the youth or anyone else who watch your videos and interpret these stories as will might interpret these stories as a glorification, and maybe a kid might see a story and it might inspire them to be a better criminal than you in retrospect.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's the double edged sword when you do
yeah,
this because I already get a lot. Oh, you're glorifying it. No, I'm not glorifying. I'm showing you the thorns on the rose. It might look like it's glorifying, but these are the consequences that come with it. I did 12 years. They was from what my lawyer was saying. They were trying to give me 18 to life. I showed paperwork on one of my videos how they try to charge me with unalive, that never happened. You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
Like this is the stuff that they wanted me for. Like you really was trying to bury me for under the jail. Like you were really trying to bury me, and this is because I was really out here being active. I was really gang banging to the maximum, and this is what happens. This is the consequences. Had 2 attempts on my life out here. It's just like, come on, this is nothing to glorify. This is real deal. Like you don't want to live like this. I tell my son that every day. This is not the life you need to live. You could always do better. I didn't have a choice. It may seem like I had a choice, but we really didn't. But you have a choice. So it's up to y'all to do better. So I hope people don't look at my videos and think I'm glorifying it. And I will tell you that I'm not glorifying it because the prison is for the birds. I just use that to bring awareness, raise awareness, and just if I could just reach, a couple people, that's all that matters.
yeah,
That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Or
Definitely can't fully control who your message gets to and how they interpret it, but that shouldn't stop you from just putting the message out there regardless.
exactly.
Yeah. And I see you getting adjusted to the algorithm language by saying unaliving. You know,
Yeah,
you can't.
I'm trying not to curse and do all of this because I know it is gonna, trigger it, and I'm trying to, reach as much people as I can. The more people we reach, the better. It's always the better. The message got to get across. It's doing good. The numbers are doing good. It look. I don't really know what viral is. It looks like we went viral a couple times. From what
Yeah,
people keep saying, but we're doing good. So it's just day by day. I'm just trying to build a team and keep building it, different states, and try to connect with more people and try to just keep this thing going. I think it could really change a lot of lives.
yeah. And virality. Well, virality is like a spectrum, right? Like what's viral in some areas might not really be viral in other areas, right?
Yeah,
You valley viral because people noticing you on the street.
yeah, that's facts.
Yeah.
That's facts. That's definitely facts. It feels good though, just to be, have people see me for something positive now, at least, trying, at least that, you know, I hope they make an attempt to see me as something positive, shoot, after all the damage we done caused.
Yeah. Nah, I mean, I'm sure that's a relief in a sense to change that narrative.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I know there was times, I would show up on the scene and dudes would, yeah, they would be
They
quick to leave and back out and think where it's just crazy, man. It was crazy how things used to be, man. Like,
Where they
oh,
start tucking in their chain like Chris Rock and
yeah,
Dre.
dudes just thought we'd be on some just full BS all the time. Like, yeah, nah, so it's good to see them. Like, all right, relax, be chilling, or uh,
How you feel about gang culture being stylish at this point, right? Because you know, and becoming a part of pop culture. Because when you turn blood, it wasn't really mainstream, and we knew of famous bloods, but after a while, you started to see people who've been famous since they were teenagers claiming gangs, right? So how does that make you feel knowing that you experienced so much trauma and lost years of your life because of this lifestyle, and now it's
you
more
know,
stylish?
like if that's what you want to do, I don't blame you. Get your bread. Do what you feel like you must as necessary. But for the real dudes that are out here putting it in and that are actually able to make that transition, that's lovely. You're able to escape and open doors because every one of us that actually makes it out, you know, we help a bunch of others, whoever you got in your circle, you still helping people, you know what I'm saying? So, if niggas want to use that shit as a fashion, go ahead. I don't see myself as a gang member. Like the gang banging and gang thing, like that's beneath me. Like I've been involved, like I just link with like-minded individuals. Yeah, we may rap rad, but we're on different time and we're trying to do shit legit. We're connecting, putting our brain power together and just, trying to find a way, man. Dudes' fathers, taking kids,
Yeah.
single fathers, working a jobs and doing all like there's the you feel me? But
You
there's people out here
froze
that,
up
that,
for a
that
little bit.
wear colors that are doing great things. Word.
You froze up for a little bit. What did you say? Just now.
I said the good things that dudes do, like the positives that dudes actually do in the streets that do wear colors, that's always ignored.
Yeah.
That's ignored. We're always, mainly focusing on the negatives.
Hmm.
Or
Yeah.
and that's all people ever see it because yeah, the gangbangers, you might not be in the field and in the streets toting guns, but the rest of these niggas, little kids are, YNs are, and that's who everybody's looking at. Oh, they're still giving us the bad name, but this is why I actually still use the colors as a way to speak their language. You feel me? Like everybody says, oh, you shouldn't do that. You should be out, but how has that been working?
Yeah.
Dudes got to see the same way when you with the when it was with segregation and with black people. I'm not to try to, say similarities, but we wanted to see black people in roles so we know that we can actually achieve those type of dreams. You wanted to see black people being doctors. You wanted to see all of that, so it's possible too. You
Yeah.
feel me? But do see me wearing my colors and seeing that I'm working two jobs. This is why I post me working morning and night. I'm showing dudes this is my life. This is what I'm doing. This is the positive things I'm doing, and they can see that. Then they know, like, you're the same as us. You're really the same as us. You're work. You get up every day. Yeah, you throw the red on. It is what it is. But you're not out here on some negative shit. You're really out here trying to be positive, live legitimately. Word. That's all that really matters, man. It takes a village, and we gotta really use our voices to help people out instead of destroying them.
Yeah, it's not the message isn't always it's not always going to be clear for people. So you have to make it simple in as many ways as you can while not taking away from your message because it's very nuanced, right? I think crime is a very nuanced thing.
Yeah.
And then uh after what's it called? Paying your debt to society and coming home and now you're trying to do restorative things to help the community, then it's even more nuance for people to even understand just all the aspects of trying to change
Yeah.
and still trying to be grounded in the people that you come from.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge because I mentioned earlier, like people always see me as the little hoodlum, the demon, the oh yeah, you need to go when he comes around, you know what I'm saying? But so it's like I know a lot of people like you're gonna get a lot of hate, especially Rockland's a small town. We all really pretty much know each other, and I'm coming home, I'm fresh home, and I just created a movement out of nowhere. You feel me? Like I'm noticing, you know, um, dudes that was liking the stories and stuff in the beginning, they're no longer liking them. You feel me? But they'll watch all my they'll see the stories I post and they'll tune in all the time. You feel me? But you're seeing the shift. Like, all right, dudes they was loving it before because they probably thought it was gonna die down, but now they're
Yeah,
seeing it keeps growing. It's like, okay, now the hate is starting to show. So and it's just damn, he'll be back to a life of crime. It's that kind of thought. Word. I know what people. It's just crazy, man. It's crazy. But like I said, it's, one day at a time. That's all we can do, man, and stay focused on the mission. Uh,
when you were free, did you still have this mindset as far as just knowing that it's like one day at a time and knowing that people aren't gonna receive everything that you put out as well, because this is it's a mature mindset to have, and not to, because I look at your comments, right, and people be talking shit in the comments like um what dude was like, going back to you wearing red, saying this dude is out here flamed out, stuck in the past, some like that. And I'm looking at your replies and you're not replying angrily to these people, right? You're trying to really get them to understand what you're doing.
yeah, people just tune into. They'll see that part and it's like, oh, you're glorifying it. You feel me? But they're not checking the other parts to see like, oh, I'm just telling the story. This is 20 years ago. I'm just trying to inform people of what happened so that they won't go through the same thing, especially the youth. That's what it is. But I ain't gonna lie, bro. And I don't cat. You feel me?
Yeah.
I be tight. I be tight, bro. Yo, these motherfuckers, boy.
Yeah.
They be taking me up. Sometimes, yo, bro, they be taking me up, man. But it's gonna come. It comes with the territory, man. It comes with if they're not hating, you ain't doing something right. So I try to keep it positive, because I don't want to see dudes see me respond all angrily and think like, oh yeah, he really hasn't changed. But I can turn the other cheek now. Like,
Yeah.
I can really turn the other cheek. I haven't put my hands on somebody in years, even in prison. You feel me? So it's like I can turn the other cheek. I can just ignore it. Like, you're an internet thug. There's no way we're gonna see each other, talk your shit, and move on. You'll find somebody else to troll next
Exactly.
tomorrow. Or
Exactly. Yeah, it's the what you have to mentally prepare yourself when you're becoming a public figure, whatever that means.
Yeah.
You know, somebody somebody on TikTok or no, on YouTube was in my comments was like, I'm a corny interviewer. I was dying laughing. I was like, and I responded, thank you. Because it's like, what can you do?
People just like to troll. They got their own personal demons. They got a battle, and that's their outlet. Hey, whatever, do what you do. You still doing your thing. It's not stopping your flow. So that's the way you get. Anybody should look at it. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? And that's pretty much the mindset I had back then before I came. Went to prison. Like it wasn't really as mature because I don't care is I'm running in your mouth.
Yeah.
Like I shut up. We're not gonna speak, get down and lay down. This is what's going on. Like
Yeah.
our crew had like the longest run on the street as far as, reign on the street as far as top dog. But, that's the way we just carried it. But now it's just, it's okay to just let things be, bygones be bygones. Who cares? You got to let the pride get out the way sometimes.
Yeah.
Or
Exactly.
take the pride out and just let shit be. Word.
And people not gonna remember like these interactions, like, oh, somebody probably think like somebody made you look soft online. Like people not gonna remember that.
Remember that, yeah. It's gonna be forgotten. Like I said, they're gonna find something else that captured their attention, and it's gonna move on. So, I don't pay them no mind. I say my little comments. Sometimes I don't even respond. Just I might just heart it and keep it pushing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Kill them with kindness.
That's it.
So because I love music so much, I'm going through your YouTube and your gram, and it made me want to know, like, what was the soundtrack of your life during all these times? Like, what was the music that you connected to and was the most relatable to you?
Oh, I was really, Weezy was always my favorite rapper growing up, and I used to listen to my right hand man Jack, my cameraman. He was always on Lloyd Banks, so that was all we used to listen to. Just pretty much just during our days, just running around and just drilling. Like that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That no ceilings, can't feel my face.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. The droughts, shoot, boy, we was going crazy.
Or, man, Wayne was everybody's favorite rapper at one point.
Yeah, we was going crazy, popped in. That was in that era, that was heavily addicted to drugs and all, it was really that era. Like, we're really that was a crazy time where it
Yeah.
was crazy. Word.
What did you have to unlearn during your time in prison, and what did you have to unlearn after your release?
Like I said, well, pride was one thing. I don't know, like one of our things that I like to say our crew had, my crew had was gangster pride. It's like Super Saiyan pride. It's just gangster pride. Like it's hard to turn the other cheek. So we always get as you disrespect us, any threat, insult, attack is like we gotta respond. So it's like that's one thing I had to get out of. Like, we can't always you know, take violence up. Everything can't resort to violence. That's what I had to, figure out in prison because it's more structured, there's more discipline in prison. There's rules you got to follow, and you can't, you can't run in prison. I mean, you can run, you can sign in the PC and do all of that, but there's pretty much no running if you want to be, in population with mingling and doing, you know what I'm saying? You gotta, so you gotta meet your aggressor with your aggressor, so it's better just, let certain things be, so that's one thing I definitely had to let go. Like pride, I can't take everything as disrespect.
Yeah.
So that was definitely one thing. And coming home, it was just, really just getting at it, talking about like, referring to myself as I'm still in prison. You feel me? My sister had to check me a couple times, like, you're not in prison no more. You're not in prison no more. Like, all right, that's pretty much it. That was pretty much it. Or that was pretty much it. I mean, there's probably more things I could think of, if I really sat and really thought about it. But that's one thing that's really coming to my head. Or just the prison mannerisms.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how long that really takes. I mean, I'm sure it's a person by person kind of thing.
Yeah.
How long it takes to really unlearn that. But yeah, being aware of what you have to unlearn is the first step. Do you regret anything from your past?
No. I mean, I thought about it and I had to say no. After years, I'm like, no, I can't regret anything because I wouldn't be who I am. You feel me? I am who I am. You take one thing out, and I'll probably be a completely different person.
Yeah,
We probably wouldn't even be having this conversation, you know?
yeah,
So no, I don't regret nothing.
that's true. I mean, it's a good mindset to have as well too. Uh, you know, I know you probably went through a lot of reflection in your life. Just doing these different stints in jail. Especially with the longest one, that the most recent one.
Yeah.
I know your mom left the family, while she was dealing with her substance abuse. But if you could say anything to your mom right now, like what would it be?
Um, I mean, I understand the addiction,
Yeah,
but uh, I love my mom.
yeah,
I love you. I understand. I understand. Do I respect it? Her decisions? No, I don't. But I understand.
yeah,
Because I dealt with addiction myself. It doesn't matter what drug it is. I was heavily popping pills, like I said. Crazily back then. So I understand addiction. So I understand. I don't think I would have never left my children. Yeah, I probably. I could have. Yeah, 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 yeah. Because
yeah,
I wasn't as present in my son's life as I could have been. I could use the excuse of probably in the streets or, ripping and running, but, it's everything, so I understand.
yeah.
Uh,
You think this just came to me like you think being in the streets is an addiction?
yeah, it's an addiction because most people can't get out. They're attracted to the limelight. They're attracted to the money, whatever it is, the adrenaline rush that they get from a drill. It's anything that it can really be, you know, like, drilling is a high in itself. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah,
Me and my man used to go on drills. We used to it just was a high moment. Word, we finished the dude off, and it's just like when I caught the attempted murder on the Crip dude. We was geeked up for the whole night. We couldn't even sleep, boy. We was excited, like yeah, that you know what I'm saying, like that's it's a high itself. So the streets are definitely an addiction. Word, and
mhm.
that's why it's so hard for people to leave.
Yeah, and the same factors that could lead a person to drug use mentally are the same factors mentally that could lead a person to just succumb into the streets and just like
Mhm.
staying in that life. So yeah, I mean, you could really become addicted to anything.
Yeah, everything could be an addiction. Too much of anything is a bad thing.
Yeah. If you could speak to the 14-year-old version of yourself, right, that was angry due to the instability of his home life and was experiencing bullying because of what he didn't have and getting in fights and is on the cusp of fully being entrenched in the street life, what would you say to him?
Keep your head up, young man. That's it. Keep your head up, young man. Or because anything I say to you, might alter my future. And that ain't happening. I like who I am.
Yeah.
Or
Oh, true. Yeah.
But to all these other 14-year-olds out there, the life of crime ain't what it is. I'm telling you that right now. It's not. I did altogether throughout my entire life. I probably got close to 15 years in. Did 12 recently, just came off the 12. I did about 16 months, close to 18 months in the county, and I did a year in the juvie. And I'm only 35.
Mm.
You feel me? I'm not even 35. I'll be 35 in November. So you got to take that into account. That's 20. That's 20 years. I'm 20 years old. Now you got to think about it. I'm still a child. You feel me? I had all the years of growing up as a child. You feel me? From age 1 through pretty much 14. So what does that leave me? 6 years on the street. As
Yeah.
a free thinking man for myself. Like, come
Yeah.
on, that's ridiculous. Word. I didn't have really no time to really enjoy life
Yeah.
because it was always incarceration. It was always incarceration. I'm always missing everything. Word. That's not the life I want to lead. Yeah, we trying to you get to the streets to try to create a way out, but at the end of the day, we just dig a bigger hole for our family because now we're an extra bill, and prison is expensive.
Yeah.
Not to mention if the dude's got the addiction, K2, you're gonna want to cash app, send 25, send 25, send 50. All of that adds up. It's another bill. Word.
Mm.
We're just hurting our family more.
Hmm. Yeah. How do we truly fight recidivism when the system makes it so difficult to stay out of prison, right? Because of course we're responsible for our own actions, but if you come home from prison, more than likely you're broke. Then you're not truly free because you might be on parole and your parole officer could show up to your crib randomly and violate you and then send you back to prison. Then not to mention all the other easy ways to fall back into the system, right? Because of certain strict legislation. So is part of the war on recidivism trying to speak to lawmakers to fix this based on your own experiences?
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, I mentioned her name earlier, Kalitha Bush. You feel me? The sis I be talking to, married to an FBI informant. She took the program, so she has she writes the she took the course or whatever through Reform Alliance, so she's able to write the bills and everything. So we're discussing that, talking about how to get the bills in front of different lawmakers. And I also got another friend, Michelle Ab. She's out in North Carolina. She introduced a bill over there, for the youth to try to get them out of life sentences and all that. So yes, that we're definitely on track to doing that. We're just like I said, it's a day by day process. I don't want to bite off more than I can chew. You feel me? I'm
Yeah.
still trying to build the team up. Real a good solid crew together. To get everything done because it's hard to try to put everything to do everything all by myself. I definitely need help. It takes a village, like I said. So we're definitely going to get in. We're definitely going to get that done. We're definitely going to get that done because I got some plans, or I definitely got some plans.
Yeah. What message would you tell the guys locked up and the youth going through the things you've experienced? Not even just, preventative measures, but people who experience the same things.
For the people locked up, like I said, man, as long as you got a date to come home, you should stay focused in there. Get as much program as you learn as much as you can, read as much as you can, you know, and just know that there are people out here fighting. It may not seem like it at times, but there definitely are people out here fighting. I'm definitely one of them, and I'm here. I'm gonna keep speaking up for those that can't, especially the prison population because they're definitely vulnerable, and we're definitely gonna get some definitely some good positive prison reform going on. It's gonna take time. Everything is time. It's time, but you got to stay focused. You got to stay focused. Come home. Don't rush things. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Don't try to impress nobody. Develop a plan and stick to it. And stick to it. It's gonna be hurdles. Gonna be roadblocks, but you gotta see it through.
Mhm.
Uh,
You've been through a lot, of course. We talk about that this entire interview, and you lost a lot. But I want to talk about the things you've gained. Right? What are you the most proud of at this stage?
that I actually can be, a family man. Like I said, I got two kids. I have two kids, a son and a daughter. I have a son and a daughter, and I get to be a family man. I get to father them, be around them. My son, he definitely needed me. He was out here, and he definitely needed to, he definitely needed my presence, to show him that, there's a better way out, and just being around my sister and everything. I'm just happy, we're able to really change do something positive, man. It's good, to come up, create something, and have people actually, tuning in and actually respecting respecting it. It's a great feeling. Or it's a great feeling, man. I'm proud of everything the entire I accomplished, everybody around me accomplished. We're definitely doing our thing, man. We're definitely on the right track.
Mhm. Yeah, man. I'm proud of you too, bro. I know I don't really know you like that, but just to see people's growth people's growth and just intention, you know what I'm saying? It's good to live life with intention, uh and a vision and having a purpose, right? It's very difficult to find your purpose in life.
Uh-huh.
Very difficult. No matter if you grew up privileged or if you grew up poor, like finding your purpose is like one of the hardest things to find.
Yeah, most people will reach late years and still can't figure out what to do. Like,
Yeah.
I never thought American Felon would be grown as much as it is right now, but I'm gonna just keep going with the flow. If this is what it's meant to be, it's gonna be. Well,
Mhm. Are you mentally prepared or mentally preparing yourself for all the attention that you're already getting it, but there's going to be more?
I mean, you can never probably prepare for it, until it really happens. That's the way I just go into it. When it does happen, it happens. I'm gonna just be grateful. That I'm actually able to see people appreciating the work that we're actually doing out here. It may look easy, but it's a lot that goes into doing this.
Mhm.
A lot of retakes, a lot of blunts, a lot of blunts. It takes a lot of blunts.
A lot of stress.
But it's a blessing, man. When you get it done and you see the results of the hard work, and you seeing it paying off. It's really paying off. People are hitting me up, telling me that they appreciate it. So it feels good, man. Definitely feels good.
Yeah. Um, what's next for you?
Well, I'm planning on going to sorry, I'm eating some candy, but I'm planning on going back to college. I need 30 credits for my associates, my business management, entrepreneurship, and marketing.
Oh, you could knock that
So
out in a year.
yeah, hmm so I'm planning on doing that, and I'm looking taking the national paralegal association exam.
Ooh, yeah, that's good.
Mhm. No, I seen it. Yeah, I took a couple correspondence courses while I was locked up, and I think I believe I have enough credits to sit for the test so I can become a certified paralegal.
Mm. And that's good because then you gain the knowledge legally to really fight the fight that you're fighting. Because
Yeah, like I said, I took some correspondence courses, so I familiarized myself with the law. Especially doing all of this, I definitely need to be, speaking on past shit like this, and people thinking that it can lead to indictments. But I also want to try to, like I said, I got a couple shows I've been working on, trying to create, like the Felons Got Talent. I'm trying to get that up and going, and a couple other series that we're gonna produce. And I'm also trying to, like I said, get the publishing company up. The magazine will be coming soon, probably later this year.
hmm,
And if all goes well, and we'll probably get the publishing company up as at the same time. So that's definitely what we're looking forward to from this year going forward.
okay, yeah, no, it all sounds good, all makes sense, and looks like you know what you got to do to make it. Uh,
One day at a time, bro. That's all I can keep doing, man. That's keep saying, and I could keep telling everybody, just one day at a time. Don't rush it.
yeah,
No rush.
yeah. Uh, so James, after serving 12 years in prison, you proceeded to turn your life around. You created American Felon TV to tell cautionary tales about your community with the intentions of deterring the youth from the streets, as well as putting a spotlight on other felons who have improved their life post incarceration. You
Yes.
use your time wisely in prison, earning a legal assistant slash paralegal certificate. You just spoke about that. Criminal law certificate and a civil litigation certificate from Blackstone Career Institute.
Yes.
You also received the certificate of training for peer education and an entrepreneurship and business management certificate from Adirondack Community College. So, knowing this, I can see that you're a communicator. You are a leader naturally. You're an advocate for language that can liberate. This podcast is named Words Matter. So, my last question for you is, why do words matter to you?
Well, especially the English language, because the English language is so ambiguous. You feel me? You got to know the definition of words. You got to know what you're reading. You got to know how to articulate, and not only just know how to read, you got to understand what you're reading. You feel me?
Mhm.
And I'm telling everybody, don't be signing nothing without reading it first. And if you don't know what a word means, Google it. Word. Simple as that. And try to put it in context, because they could trick you with words. Words matter. Words matter. You know what I'm saying? And what we tell each other and how we speak and present ourselves to people, it matters. Just like I'm telling my story, people might think I'm glorifying it. No, I'm telling you what my words mean. My words are to raise awareness and to tear you. This is what it's for. And I'm glad that you had me on here so I can actually tell people and express that, so they won't keep getting the wrong idea. You know?
Mhm.
Word. I love what you got going on, bro. This is amazing. Just another Rockland night. Yeah, I love it, man. I love it, man. Word.
Thank you.
Love it.
Appreciate that a lot, man. It's like you spoke about intentions. Like these, it's my intentions to get these stories out, and just stories of people who use words to benefit their lives and benefit and storytelling. Storytelling is how we what we need to see the world, right? Media is so important in our perception of the world. And people have a lot of
Absolutely.
people have a lot of negative things to say about the media. But if there's no media, then how do you come to conclusions? How do you make assumptions? Even though assumptions aren't the best, how do you come to stereotypes? How do you learn about the world without traveling the world? Right? You
Well,
need
yeah.
me. So thank you, man.
No.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you, bro. I definitely appreciate this, man. Like, it's been a journey, man. But I'm glad everybody's reaching out. The universe works in its own way. It connects people when it's necessary. And it was definitely that time, and I'm glad we was able to definitely make this happen, man. Or
All right. And where can everybody find you?
yo, you can find us on all social media platforms. Instagram, American Felon TV, TikTok, American Felon TV. You can find us on Facebook. We're definitely lit. And you can find us on YouTube, American Felon TV. Or you can cop the merch, DM me, whatever, let me know. We're here, man. If you got some questions, you need some consultation, you just talk to us. Just hit us up. We're here. We're here.
It's consultation. What does that entail?
That's another thing we're about to be starting up. I didn't mention it, but prison consultation. Just trying to help families that have any loved ones that are about to go through the system. If they try to help them ease their mind on what their loved ones will experience, and try to keep them safe throughout that time. Best ways to keep them safe, safety tips, etc. We're gonna try to get that out there.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds good too. Sure you could do that. Sure you could succeed at that. But yeah, once again, thank you, Mr. James Pitt, BI, Blitz. If you still want me to call you that. Uh
Yep.
yeah, nah, thank you for allowing me to sit down with you and get into your story and you know, just be a light for youth and a symbol of redemption and change.
Nah, I appreciate you for having me, bro. I definitely love seeing the fact that you got this platform to give raise voices up. You know, it's truly amazing. Especially, like I said, we're from Rockland, you know, and most people don't know, like, we're such a small community, and not a lot of us really have outlets to, you know, really, you know, get our stories out there and make people aware of it. And this is great, man. This is great. Thank you for having me, man.
All right. Words matter.